Hey there! Thanks for clicking on the video. As you can see in the title, there are a lot of flashing lights in this review. I wanted to put up an audio cue for the times it pops up, but as this is an Atari 2600 game, flashing lights were kind of a major feature in that console's library. I would have had to play the audio cue at least every other scene. I really appreciate your support, and it means the world to me. But if you are epileptic or photosensitive, maybe skip this one. I care that you give me a view, but I care more about your safety. Do not come after me if you ignore this warning. With that out of the way, and if you're still with me, please, enjoy my video. Cars, guns, espionage, gadgets, thrills, stunts, exotic locations, beautiful women who are not only pleasing to the eye, but also capable of taking you out, and I don't mean for a lovely time.
This time, Mr. Bond, the pleasure will be all mine.
Only one series perfectly brings all these elements into one package. I'm of course talking about the James Bond 007 franchise. I, like many of you watching, am eagerly anticipating the release of the newest James Bond video game, First Light 007. Not counting mobile games, it has been 14 long years since the last big-budget James Bond video game, and what better way to welcome 007 back into the world of games than to take a look at his long journey through them. The name's Wolf. Ginger Wolf. Now pay attention, fellow operatives, because I am going back through most of the Bond games to celebrate First Light's release. I'll be looking at all major console releases with the exception of DS games because, truthfully, I have no way of getting that footage short of someone filming over my shoulder, and here on this channel, that simply won't do. I will also be skipping the early computer games as well. I may revisit them in the future, but let's face it, I've got a lot of games to work through without them. So what was the first James Bond video game? Well, if we want to get technical about it, that would be Shaken But Not Stirred by Richard Shepard Games in 1982 for the ZX, or if you're British, ZX, Spectrum. An unofficial but internationally released text adventure where you, as James Bond, are tasked with stopping one Dr. Death, who is threatening to destroy London with a nuclear warhead unless his ransom demands are met. From what I've researched, the game seemed to be received well, but it does make you wonder how it was even made without the official license to begin with. The first licensed James Bond video game was to be released a year later, and was planned to be an adaptation of the then new Bond movie, Octopussy. Specifically, it was to be based on one of the highlights of that movie, the train scene, where you, as Bond, must face gunmen and knife-throwing bad guys, probably based on the twins, as you race to the front of the train. There were ads for the game, but sadly it was never released. I think for an Atari 2600 game, it really could have been a thrilling game that would have given Pitfall a run for its money. No, the actual first James Bond game to grace consoles was James Bond 007, developed by Parker Brothers and released in 1983 on the Atari 2600, Atari 5200, Atari 8-bit computers, ColecoVision, Commodore 64, and the Sega SG-1000. So, how did Bond's first game do? Was it fun and exciting? Does it still hold up today? Let's find out as I look into the Atari 2600 version of James Bond 007. Things start out promising as upon booting up the Atari, a nice rendition of the Bond theme plays. So I start the game, and what the hell is going on? Okay, kids. Back then, games weren't too advanced, so your tutorials and story were put into a little booklet called a manual. As I don't actually have it, I had to look it up online. Alright, well, according to this, you don't play as James Bond. You don't say. Instead, you play as Bond in a, and I quote, specially designed multi-purpose craft. This car can jump, fire, and drop bombs, and can go on the sea as well as the land. So I guess it's supposed to be the Lotus Esprit from The Spy Who Loved Me? The manual also says that I'm playing through Diamonds Are Forever, and that I'm going through a desert at night. I think I need to break this down a little. In this game, you actually play through 3 Bond movies: Diamonds Are Forever, Moonraker, and The Spy Who Loved Me. The game doesn't really tell you what movie you're playing, so you're going to need to read the manual if you want to understand that. In the Diamonds level, you start in the desert where you have to jump over fire pits, dodge searcher helicopters, these robots in the sky that the manual calls satellites, and shoot diamonds in the sky. No Lucy though, thankfully. You can't shoot the satellites or the helicopters, so the best you can do is try to avoid them. Easier said than done. Thankfully, not only can you move the car forward and back, but you can also descend from your jumps by holding down. This can help you avoid a lot of unnecessary damage. Oh yeah, the game has one-hit deaths, and you only get 5 lives. Once they're gone, it's back to the beginning with you. So how long do I have to do this? Honestly, I don't know. After blasting so many diamonds, the game just decides that you're now in the water. When you fire, you now alternate between firing up and dropping bombs. The enemies also get upgrades, and this can be a real pain, because now the satellites cause fire pits in the water? Alright, what does the manual say about this? Okay, they're not fire pits, they're radioactive splashes. Look, I know nothing on the subject, but shouldn't that make the entire bed of water here radioactive? There's also these diver guys who are bigger than the car for some reason. It's a good guess that they aren't on your side, because when you get close, they explode into another one of those radioactive splashes. On the bright side, when these guys are on the screen, the satellites won't be making those anymore. This time, when you blast enough diamonds, you'll see an oil rig appear. Oh yeah, Blofeld's, right? Not according to the manual. Instead, you're after Serafino's oil rig? Serafino? Do they mean Serafimo Spang? One of the villains from the Ian Fleming book? Well, I guess this was during the time when the Bond franchise couldn't use Blofeld our Spectre. It's a long story, but Google Kevin McClory if you want to know what happened there. Okay, so my goal is to land on the right side landing port of the oil rig. But to know where I'm going first, I need to blast a diamond. So I do that, and it appears. It won't stay visible for long though, and at that point, it's a guessing game. If you're too close to it, you can dive in the water under it, but you'll have to find the oil rig again. It also has to be said here that you have to jump over the derrick on the left to land on the platform. Well, guess how well that can go. Even if you do land it, it's difficult to tell if you completed it, because the completion screen is the same one as the game over one. It's the title screen. The only way that you can tell if you succeeded, especially if you've lost all your lives, is if your score goes up 5,000 points. Moving on to Moonraker, and there isn't any build-up. You are dropped right into the action before you really have any idea what's going on. And since this is the Atari 2600, there isn't a pause button, and the game will only stay on this screen for a few seconds. So I hope you read and memorized the manual before starting this game. The objective in this mission is to destroy Hugo Drax's spinning satellites. Your obstacles this time? First, you've got Moonraker shuttles below the water. Naturally, right? Once they get airborne, they'll turn into what the manual calls a poison bomb. Well, at least that's movie accurate, I guess. If you're on the surface when this happens, you're toast. If you dive, you'll survive. I guess Bond in this version really doesn't give a damn about the poisonous bombs hitting the earth. Oh, and you have to do this to win. You can blast them, but there's minuscule room for error. You miss, you dive, or you die. While all this is going on, you've also got submarines to watch out for. These guys will shoot torpedoes at you before they get too far to the right, and those suckers are quick. You have to jump over those, and yes, you can dive into them and lose a life. The manual recommends destroying them before they get a chance to fire, but good luck with that, because you alternate between bombs and your shots, and the subs are fast. Not to mention you're trying to blast the spinning satellites blazing across the top of the screen. Once you somehow get all 3, you move right on to the next mission. This time you are in The Spy Who Loved Me, and all hell is broken loose. You've now got to dodge rapid and random rockets that can drop what the manual calls firebombs. These explode on the surface of the water too, so it's not enough just to dodge them. Meanwhile, the helicopter's back, and they really mean business this time. In Diamonds Are Forever, they've maybe fired a couple shots at you that you could dodge. Here, they will fire at you until they are off screen. Once you get past those, eventually cruise ships, their oil tankers appear, and you have to dive under them. Yeah, all the while you're dodging the other crap. Get past that, and you'll see Stromberg's underwater lab, which you need to bomb. Once you do that, an escape pod containing Anya Amasova float out. You need to run into it and rescue her to finally beat the game. So what's the ending screen? I'm gonna be completely transparent. I don't know. I really tried to beat this game. I concentrated the best I could, memorized the objectives of each stage, and learned the patterns of every single enemy in the game, and still made it one time to the escape pod section. This game is brutal, and after 20 attempts, I gave up. If you want to beat it and show me that you're better than me, knock yourself out. After you get a game over and wait for a little bit, the game gives you a final ranking. The highest you can get on the novice difficulty is 006. And of course it's 007 on agent difficulty. Does it really matter though? No. So that was the first official James Bond video game. Now, as I stated earlier, there are other versions that include another level based on For Your Eyes Only, where you must make it to the sunken ship, the St. George's, and collect the ATAC. But honestly, after pushing through the Atari 2600 version, I really don't have any desire to play and talk about those versions. So what did the players and magazine writers think of the game back then? I really couldn't tell you about that either, as I couldn't find a single contemporary review for this game. As for my recommendation, I can't. Although the Bond theme and the graphic of 007 is nice, this game certainly isn't. Even on the easy novice difficulty, you are going to need considerable luck to even get to the final level. It doesn't help that, at least in my experience, there were times where the game just decided that I lost. Enemy fire is extremely quick, and your movement is far too slow to dodge it. The most egregious example will be the times I would respawn, only to get immediately blasted and give away a free life. I will give the game props for trying to have levels based on multiple Bond movies that were out at the time, but if you took out the Bond theme and the graphic, it really just becomes another Atari shooter amongst the sea of them. Play this one if you want, but if you want to stay sane, I'd say just skip it. Now, as far as I'm aware, this game did not really set Bond up as a blockbuster game franchise, but in the years to follow, there would be many attempts. There were 2 games based on 1985's A View to a Kill, a text adventure and an action game with 3 scenarios, a text adventure based on Goldfinger, a game based on The Living Daylights, another based on Live and Let Die, one on License to Kill, The Spy Who Loved Me, and another that was refitted to be a James Bond game called 007, The Stealth Affair. As I said in the intro, I'm not going to be covering these at the time being. There's already a lot to get through, but a lot of these were published by a company called Domark. These guys eventually became Eidos Interactive, who published the early Tomb Raider games. A lot of these Domark games were basically just regular games that had the Bond license just slapped onto them. Take the Live and Let Die game, for example. According to some information I found, it was originally just a boat game until someone at Domark thought it reminded them of the speedboat chase from Live and Let Die. So it's literally just the speedboat chase from that movie. None of these would reach home consoles, just the home computers. License to Kill almost made it to the NES, and if that ROM ever leaks, I'll be sure to review it. But in 1993, after a 3-year hiatus, Domark gave Bond one more shot on Sega consoles this time. So join me next time to look into the Bond game that was overshadowed by everything that came after it. James Bond 007, The Duel. Until then, I'm Ginger Wolf, you're awesome, catch you later.
This is Solid Snake. Thank you for watching Ginger Wolf's video. Ginger Wolf, huh? Huh. Sounds like one of Liquid's men. Liquid! Anyway, if you liked what you saw, hit the like and subscribe buttons, or I'm gonna have to use some CQC on you. And I don't think either of us want that. Snake out.
Oh, dear brother. I couldn't help but notice you failed to remind them about the notification bell. I'd imagine it's hard to remember such things when you're busy getting electroshocks and urinated on by animals. But to you, dear viewers, do make sure that the bell is active. I'd hate for you to miss out on all the fun. Now, as for you, dear brother, how could you think I, like you, would recruit some nerdy piece of